Imagine it's been a long, hard day at school or work, and you need to find a way to relax and unwind. So you go ahead and ask your favorite voice assistant to bump up the air conditioning before you get home. As soon as you get home and your phone connects to Wi-Fi, your garage automatically starts going up. Your front door unlocks for you. You don't even need the key. You even throw on one of your favorite TV shows that always made you laugh. Or you probably even say something like, "Okay, Google, put on some music."
Playing some music on YouTube Music.
And then the music starts running and you sit down with your popcorn, and then you get a notification on your phone that there's motion detected outside. You start wondering, what's going on outside of my home? And you check the cameras and you see it's nothing but a little dog that's lost its way. Nothing to worry about. Or is there something to worry about? What if you weren't the only person who saw that show that you like, or the only person who could open your garage door? What if I told you there was someone else who could unlock your front door as if they were you?
And that's just the tip of the iceberg that is IoT devices. Hi, I'm Sam Williams. I'm a freshman at Radford University studying cybersecurity. And this is Your House is Watching You, IoT device security. So, what are IoT devices? Well, the way I define IoT devices is one phrase. If it can connect, it's a threat. These can be so many different examples. I mean, there are security cameras, printers, smart TVs, and many more things. In the IoT testing lab, we actually have cameras. We have hubs like Samsung SmartThings, Google Homes, Amazon Alexas. There's Fire Sticks, Rokus. There's so many different types of IoT devices that they're very difficult to classify without giving examples. Even smart plugs and so many more things that are off screen in here. But it's really cool that these things do so much for us, but what do they do for us? Well, we trust them with so much information. We trust them with the information of our friends and our families, saving all those phone numbers, emails, and everything. We trust them with our shopping habits, sometimes embarrassing photos of ourselves. We have our age, our marital status, things like voting habits even, right? With it being an election year in the US here, that is a very, very big thing to keep your vote private if you so choose, right? And if someone were to have that and didn't like the way you voted, they may be able to do bad things with that information. For instance, someone could expose who you voted for to your employer and get you fired for personal information that no one should even know. You could have blackmail, loss of privacy, so many other things. In order to expose you, someone has to find this information first. Now, how do they find this information? If you think of a cyber attacker much like you think of a physical one, then they do the same thing. Maybe a bank robber or a burglar, in this case, would find an open window in your home, right? So a cyber attacker would find an open device in your home. In cybersecurity, there are two perspectives of security itself. There is the red team perspective and the blue team perspective. Each of them are equally important. The red team perspective is more of offensive security. The how can I get in? How can I manipulate? How can I make this system or program do something that it was not intended to do, right? The blue team perspective is more of the how can I stop someone from tampering with my system or my machine or anything, right? And in order to protect ourselves, we have to think of both. So, this is what a hacker thinks like when they see your home. The first step is reconnaissance. And in real life, what it would look like is a burglar who's maybe driving by your house or in the neighborhood to see who leaves their windows open or who doesn't lock their door when they leave for work in the morning, or how long it does take them to come back home from work. It's trying to see who's the most vulnerable. But in the cyberspace, this is more of scanning the entire internet with a tool like MassScan or Shodan.io to see what devices are where on the internet. The next step is scanning and enumeration. Once they find that open device in your home, they want to learn more about your home. They want to see if there's any other devices there that may be even easier to get control of. This whole time, they're taking down information in their notes like what version you're running, what kind of device is it, what operating system does it have, what is it talking to in your home, what is that device connected to, and they find out as much information as possible. The next step is exploitation. This is the step that attackers use everything they've culminated in their notes to gain control of one of your devices. This is when they may exploit a problem in an old version because you've forgotten to update, or they've exploited a vulnerability that no one even knows about in a recent version, but more than likely, it's something that they pulled off of the internet. At this point, the attacker can use this device as if they are you, and it looks like every single thing going on this device is as if you've done it. After an attacker has successfully exploited one device in your network, they go back for more. They go back into the scanning and enumeration phase to scan more in your house. Because once they've connected, then they can find even more things that they couldn't see on the inside. They repeat this process until they've gained more and more information about your home and you. A lot of people may think that exploitation is the end of hacking, but for more advanced attackers, it isn't. When a device is exploited, typically the exploit is short-lasting. It doesn't last forever. So attackers use special tricks to make sure that they can get back onto your network at any time. This is known as gaining persistence or maintaining access. Once an attacker has established that they can log on and off your network whenever they like, they will attempt to pivot within their network. Pivoting is essentially hopping from one device to another by abusing the trusts between them. Historically, pivoting has been done by hopping from one computer to another. But let's take a look at what this looks like in your home. Here in the IoT lab, we have a smart plug and an Amazon Alexa set up all on the same Wi-Fi network. This light right here is not a smart light. It is just connected to the smart plug, and whenever the smart plug is turned on, the light comes on, right? So, in your home, this is probably going to look a lot more like, Alexa, turn on the light.
Okay.
There you are. The smart plug activates and the light is on, right? Just that simple. So you see that these devices are already talking to each other just on a normal basis. That's how all of these devices work, including your computer, your phone. They all talk to each other. They all share certain information with each other. But what if I were an attacker and I had control of that smart plug right there, right? So the next time I get a signal from the Alexa, then I send something back, a little extra. And the next time you say, oh, well, Alexa, turn off the smart light.
Okay.
I use that connection and abuse that trust to gain control over your Amazon device. Now, I have control and access to your cameras, your Google Homes, and anything else you have connected to that Alexa. The last phase of hacking is covering tracks. This mostly consists of removing any logs or anything that can prove that the attacker was ever on the network. This may consist of removing login events or log out events, and it generally makes it harder to prove that anyone ever connected to your network without your permission. It's probably very scary to think about the fact that someone can virtually walk into your home, steal your information, and effectively pretend to be you. So, how do we defend from that? Well, here's some ways that you can use the attacker methodology against the attackers by applying it in reverse. Think of your home as a castle. You wouldn't want anything vulnerable to attack. The first step is sealing off that perimeter. This can be things like creating a strong network password, something that you can't find on the back of the router or online. Disabling default passwords on the devices that have to face the internet, and disabling unnecessary services. If you don't know what it is or you don't use it, why would you keep it there? So, this can seal off your network from any type of scanning tools that an attacker may use. Even in the event that an attacker does exploit a device on your network, one way to stop them from propagating their malware is network segmentation. This is basically making a guest network on your router. You can typically find this in your router settings or in the user manual. What this looks like in your home is keeping the cameras and the Amazon Alexa and anything important on your private network, and anything that needs to be public facing, maybe like a TV or a printer, if someone wants to come over to your house and show something on Netflix, then you want to keep that on the public network. If the attacker gains control of the television, then they can't even see the cameras. So there's no way that they can propagate their malware further into your home. As we covered earlier, exploitation is the moment when an attacker can pretend to be you. This is that scary time when they can do anything that you can. Some ways that you can stop exploitation is performing regular updates and making sure you have all the latest security patches. Don't click on any strange links. If something seems a little off, investigate. And using strong passwords is a really big one. Half the time when an attacker sees a brand new home, the first thing they do is look up the device information and look up the default password associated with it. If that works, then you're compromised. If you have been attacked, you may or may not notice strange activity on your IoT devices. Just noticing things like a blinking light where there shouldn't be, or your IoT device acting strange, may tip you off that you've been hacked. So looking for strange activity is the best thing you can do to make sure that the attacker cannot move any further. If you do see something weird, disconnect it from your network and investigate. Also, this is another point where network segmentation is very, very helpful. The best way to prevent pivoting is using all of these tips in conjunction with each other. For instance, if your devices require authentication every time there's a new connection, the attacker can't abuse any trust between your devices. If you have a segmented network, they can't hop from one device to another if there's only maybe 3 devices on your network rather than your entire home, which could be upwards of 10. The scary thing about cybercrime is a lot of the times you don't even know if you've been attacked or not. Right now, you can't even prove to yourself that you aren't the victim of cybercrime. One way that you can find out earlier is checking logs. For instance, if there's a log out event but there's no log in event, that may have been someone trying to cover their tracks but they failed. If there's a strange login event or something going on that you're not sure if you did, you need to investigate and make sure that that actually matches up with what you were doing, or at least someone in the house who has access to that device. I'm sure you've heard of encryption by now, but what does that word really mean? Well, according to cloudflare.com, it means taking readable data and altering it so it appears random. Think of hello right here as your password. When a computer encrypts it, it's seemingly random, and no one really knows what that means unless you have the right key. The problem is, some modern IoT devices still don't use encryption, and if they do, it's not very strong encryption. Make sure that all of your devices have strong encryption. I know that that is a lot of information. So here's a personal checklist that you can do just to make sure that you're doing everything you can to keep yourself safe. You can reset default passwords. If it's a default password, anyone can look it up online. No, I don't need to explain why that's bad. You should log onto your router and create a guest network. If no one can see your personal devices, no one can attack them. Disable unnecessary services. If you don't need it and you aren't using it, get rid of it. Monitor your devices. This is basically looking at the log in and log out every once in a while and doing a little audit to make sure everything is actually done by you. Perform regular updates. This is a big one. If a vendor has found out that they've done something wrong, they put out an update and they say, hey, we made a mistake, but here's a security patch. If you don't update your device, then it'll still be running that old vulnerable version. And research what you're going to buy before you buy it. Know what you're putting in your home. Up until now, we've talked about what IoT devices can do for you, how an attacker looks at your house, how you can protect yourself. But that's one singular home. What about your neighbor and everyone else? That checklist was a lot to think about. What about if we change the culture of what's wrong with this at its core? Look at this picture. The user, yourself, is the big fish. You're the one leading the pack. You're the one leading these companies to what they need to be, not the other way around. A lot of people have it mistaken. We need to take the power back and make sure that we are the ones getting what we need. In order to fix these problems with IoT devices and not have to think about that checklist so much, I think that we should split IoT security into 3 different levels: the user level, the manufacturer level, and the government level. But I think the manufacturer level is the most important, and here's why. The manufacturers, maybe Google or Amazon or anyone who puts out an IoT device, are the ones that actually make the devices. They're the ones who make these choices, who choose to put encryption in your device or not, right? So if we put pressure on them, that it will be the shift of the culture. So some ways that we can put pressure on these manufacturers is only buying secure products. If company A has a secure product and more people start to buy it, then company B will say, oh, well, we need to make a secure product too, so more people buy our product. This continues just as capitalism does. Then we have an entire ecosystem of companies making secure products. The second thing is to read security tips online and post about things that you find, right? Because if you find a weird problem or you find something really good in a device or company, then share that so more people can flock to that company and we can shift that culture. The user level is the second most important because this is what you can do right now. You can see yourself making these changes. The first thing is to follow the best practices that I gave you earlier, like the things in the checklist. The second is to stay up to date on the latest security news. If you have a device, why not look it up every once in a while to see what the problems may be in it, or what's the latest vulnerability? Has there been an update? Also, stay up to date on your updates to make sure that you have all of the latest patches. And again, share information about these companies and their products. You see how that overlaps a little in the user and manufacturer level, and you'll see a little bit of it in the government level as well. Once you've implemented those changes in your home, and then you notice the shift in the culture of the manufacturers, you'll start to realize that if someone does make an insecure product, it should be illegal. And this is where we need to get the government involved. The first thing you can do is start petitions and advocate for yourself in government. Second, in America at least, you have a representative that you can call, and this is an issue that needs to be fixed. In other countries, it may look a little different. But generally, you can call your local representatives or send them an email. Third, you can reach out to someone who may know a bit more about this stuff and create legislation. Then eventually, if someone does create a product that is terribly insecure, that company can be prosecuted for it, and you'll never have to worry about this stuff again. Just to reiterate, this isn't a piece of code that we can put in these devices. This isn't anything that we can do a one-shot fix and everything is instantly better. This is a culture shift that we need to call for. We have to share our findings with others and not advocate for security in government, but advocate for yourself. And all put that behind the methodology of if it can connect, it's a threat. So, what are your next steps from here? Well, you've already done something. It's listening to this talk all the way through. The second thing you can do is researching more about security. Research. You should know what's in your home. 4, share your knowledge in public forums. If you find something, let other people know. Also, you'll learn other people are just as passionate about security as you are. Step 5, show the companies that you care about your security by saying, I'm not going to buy that product if you don't care about me and my data. Step 6, don't advocate for security in government, advocate for yourself. Step 7, trust your device. And step 8, secure your world. Special thanks to everyone on this list. This presentation and the research behind it would not be possible without these people. And if you'd like to learn more about some of the other projects that I'm doing, I have other projects going on, some of them about IoT security, some of them generally about cybersecurity, and other things. Here's where you can reach me. Twitter, Instagram is sshadow with a 0 as the O and 2 underscores. Both of those are my emails. I respond to both, and there's my blog. If you see that profile picture, you're in the right place. Thank you very much for listening.